So, with the release of Tower featuring fantasy coming probably closer every day, or if you're from the future, already being a thing of the past, I decided to make things slightly easier for you, so that you are not going to be completely overwhelmed when jumping into the world of Ada. And with that, I welcome you to my somewhat quick and probably also helpful Ultimate Beginner Guide. And in case you're wondering why Ultimate, well, because it's ultimately your decision if you're going to trust me or not. But don't worry, I have some very convincing credentials. Oh, wrong pick. Anyway, the only things you need to know are that I'm a certified Tower of Gamer expert and that you are now going to get a sip from the fountain of knowledge. But instead of jumping right into the well, let's start from the very beginning, with step 0, Reerolling. This is pretty much a very common practice in every single gacha game, and in an ideal world, also real life. But this is also often not really needed, depending on how good the release cast is, how much time the whole procedure takes, and most importantly, how much of a lucksack you are. If you want a, let's call it deeper insight on if you should reroll or not, there is going to be a video for that later on probably. But here's a short TLDR. No. With that cleared up, let's move on. Oh, you want an explanation? Well, on one hand you're gonna miss some of the story, and on the other hand you already get a guaranteed SSR on the 30th roll on the standard golden ball banner. So unless you can't live without one specific character, there is no real reason to. So, let's get finally started for real, with step 1, story rush hour. This is pretty much exactly what it says, aka hit that skip button as fast as you can pronounce.
From clan by the push gwingish go get a quin drobble, clan to Cilio go.
Yeah, that. And also maybe a bit faster. But why? Well, while the story that can be summed up as The Walking Cyborg featuring DJ Khaled is not that bad, you're unfortunately working on a very tiny clock, as there's a pretty big time pressing reason to press the holy button after all, or to at least try to focus on only story for now, which is just the simple fact that you need to reach a certain point in the story to actually unlock the menu to other content, with the for a brand new player most important thing there being your daily quests, as these actually offer pretty good rewards you might not want to miss, unlike another certain game. So unless you have a couple of hours to set aside, you should probably focus on completing the first batch of story chapters first. But after you're done with that, it's finally time for step 2, exploration time. Yes, now you're as free as a bird, being able to stroll through the lands of Ida as much and however you want. So go out there, punch some weird looking mushrooms and gather all the 700 plus purple and golden Dragon Balls to get the one thing you truly want. I know it, you know it, and it's also totally understandable. Who wouldn't want such a hot and slender Glock 17? Anyway, after some time of bullying the natives and solving crazy puzzles like shooting a flower with fire or jumping onto some mushrooms, you will soon encounter a slight barrier disrupting your freedom, which is the copium suppressor. This is not only crucial to reducing your inevitable salt levels, but also to actually getting further into the country of industry, water, ice, green landscape, featuring very angry weaponized turtle, mecha dog and friends. Which means you will not only have to raise your level by running over even more questionable clothed civilians, but also upgrade your suppressors, which need items that can pretty much only be obtained through story and ruins. Which means it's time for step 3, raiding ruins and story with glory, aka try to discover and beat all ruins you can, like the Wanderer Jones you are. Real talk, these aren't hard and I strongly recommend you to do these ASAP, as they do unlock the first copy of some really handy relics, like the grappling hook, the not so portal gun, and of course who can forget the almighty sack. And also don't forget to come back for these once you're a big boy, as you still get more shards to upgrade your work utensils on harder difficulties. But after all that hard work, you deserve some rest, and while you're already at it, maybe also some bedtime stories. With those you will probably be busy until you either don't want to do story anymore or just simply can't, in which case you should go back to solo leveling. And what is a better way than to step 4, farm, and more farm, as there's still the energy system we so far skillfully managed to avoid, which you really shouldn't do, because like you can imagine, it's quite important, because this in the early game gives you access to some low rarity chips and equipment, which you should probably ignore till later on in your journey, where you can sack SSRs and start getting into the real grind game, end game. So at the start, just concentrate on dimensional trials and everyone's second favorite type of exploration, the interstellar one, because these are spread all over the map and you have to walk to them. That's right, unlike all the other modes, this one is a bit special. But regardless of that, it provides you a little bit of everything with a focus on weapon ascension materials. So it's also a staple energy dump besides dimensional trials, which are providing much needed XP. And I know, there's a lot of so-called slackers out there that just want to get some pulls, do dailies and maybe get some energy out of there. So where's the quick way to get rich? When it comes to materials, of course. Well, you will relatively quickly unlock the Omnium beacons that are going to be your best friend for the rest of your Tower of Life. Just click the button and watch the shiny mini gacha animation. Yes, this is another gacha for materials within a gacha. But not only that, it's also a hidden PvP mode. Whoa, wait a moment, don't get scared yet. That's just a metaphor, okay? We will get to the real deal soon enough, because this is just something you buy with stamina and then place down wherever you want. Then you come back 24 hours later and receive your rewards per email. Unless another player finds it. Then your price is sadly a bit smaller, but that's just the cost of being lazy. So if you have time, it's much better to just use your stamina on one of the other options, and when you reach mid to late game, joint operations. But what if you ran out of energy, stamina or whatever you want to call it? Well, then you can probably switch to step 5, Energyless. Because there's still a lot to do, even when you're already done with exploring and wasting energy. The first thing on this list is something we already encountered, and is also an essential part of your daily pillar of fantasy routine. Well, it's dailies. These are just very simply found in the form of 4 randomized mini-quests that usually consist of eliminate Garfield the Great, Jerry the Jobless, or just bully the bees. And while this game is very lenient when it comes to missing some of these, as you can get back some parts of your reward for free on the next day, that one gold roll you will miss is pretty valuable, so just do it! Same goes for weeklies, by the way, which once again consist of various tasks that should just poof at some point in time by just playing normally, and also kind of the over the whole map sprinkled world bosses that range from flowers that make me question myself, mecha dogs and war turtles, to whatever this is and the very angry lady that lives across from you. And those are not only very hard and require multiple people to beat, but also in return offer very enticing but sadly also very rare rewards by using golden tickets that you will mainly get from the aforementioned weekly missions. But that's still not all, as the cake called Column of Real Life still has some slices left, like for example the wormhole, that unlike the name suggests, is not to be associated with worms in holes, but is more of a level clearing tower of fantasy. However, one of the by far biggest slices that's still left is the technically endless solo wave mode, Bygone Phantasm, which just lets you fight a lot of levels featuring various waves of enemies and sometimes also bosses. So just try to push your limits once in a while, and maybe also one day you will climb the Tower of Fantasy. And while that would have been a wonderful last line for the video, we're still not done, as there's still wacky minigames like Super Wanderer Sisters, parkour, or also why am I even doing this, that rotate on a daily basis and are probably worth doing if you're bored. But what if? What if we assume that we hypothetically have friends? In that case, we could not only play with ourselves, but also indulge in modes like Frontier Clash, that's a 4-player wave mode that rewards you with mainly equipment pieces, or even more funky stuff like Void Rifts that let you relive your wildest dreams, if those would contain keys and random buffs dropped by monsters and a huge boss at the end. But if all of that is still not enough, and we actually don't have any friends to play with, then we should probably join the SyNo Discord and sign up for his guild. But also move on to the most dreaded feature of every single free-to-play. Step 6. PvP. And in case you're wondering what this PvP is, it's player versus player, warrior versus warrior, guns versus shields. In a brutal gladiator arena where only one survives. You're fighting for glory, honor, and a couple of hundred black crystals at the end of the season. Yes, this is a season-based PvP mode, so if you don't like this type of content, no problem, just do the absolute minimum, get your rewards and yeet. For everyone else, make a good team, choose a good selection of artifacts, and then it's time to fight. But before you start showering me in questions, no, this is surprisingly not a super whale-focused mode, as it's relatively balanced thanks to weapons being set to base status, so no additional constellations, or how they're really called, stars, are going to give you any advantage here. But that's obviously not the case for other content, which to be fair doesn't really matter, cause I wish someone would carry me in high-level joint operations, because that's where step 7, the endless cycle, starts. You're now done with story, have explored the wilderness, plundered all ruins and defeated all monkeys. But you're still not quite there yet, as to truly reach the top of the tower, you need to get the best gear, the best chips, and so on. And those are not grinding themselves. So wake up, log into your game, do your dailies, spend your stamina for joint ops, and repeat until you one day can say, why do I still have to grind for random substat equipments, low chance chip drops, XP and essential meds? But hopefully also you will one day climb the pillar of not so real history, and maybe even with me, who knows? So make sure to join my Discord so I can finally have some more people to talk to when it comes to Tower of Fantasy. And if you enjoyed the video and want to see more TOF content, maybe also hit that like and even more importantly that sub button. But that was now really everything from me, so it's now your turn. Tell me in the comments what TOF video you want to see next, and before I forget, a huge thanks to all of my channel members, and also an extra huge one to Asfi and the Grand Warlock. That was, like I said before, all from me, and I will hopefully see you next time.